Hi, this is your host Swapnil Bhartia, and today we have with us Mark Fussell, Azure Incubations Team Manager and Dapper founder. Mark, it's great to have you on the show.
Fantastic. I'm really glad to be here today.
Let's start with the basics. Tell me about the Dapper project. You're a founder, so what is this project about and why you created it?
So yes, the Dapper project came out from a need for developers to become more productive in how they build applications. Effectively, there's been a step change over the last few years. If you go back to the 90s and the 2000s, developers were building these sort of client-server applications as a sort of the typical model. But now developers are required to build these scalable distributed services. They have to build things that are more globally at scale. And what we observed is that it was very, very hard for developers to build these sort of services. So effectively, we set about how do we make the lives of developers easier to build these distributed applications. So that was the essence of the problem, to help the developers become more productive in how they build scalable distributed applications. And so to do that, we came up with the Dapper project that enables them to achieve that.
Can you talk about the core components of Dapper project? Because of course, open source projects, so you may be leveraging a lot of other open source projects within the project.
Correct, yes. I mean, at its heart, Dapper is a set of APIs, and a developer can use those APIs. And what's good is that a developer from any ecosystem can come. It doesn't matter if they're a Go developer or a Java developer, they can come and use those APIs. And it allows them, for example, say they want to run and build a stateful long-running application, they can use a state API from Dapper to be able to achieve that. Now, in doing so, Dapper takes advantage of many other CNCF technologies. So, for example, Dapper provides you the ability to communicate very easily between two services. This is a very common problem. I want to securely talk between application A and application B. And to do that, Dapper takes advantage of gRPC protocols. Dapper provides an API as well for you to be able to do publish and subscribe events, to be able to notify one application to another application that an event has been done. It takes advantage of cloud events for that. Other technologies like Spiffy is used for identity, OpenTelemetry is used for open diagnostics, and so it brings together a suite of CNCF developer technologies, which we're actually thrilled about.
Are there other distributed, application runtime tools? Of course, if you look at CNCF landscape, it's a very busy space. So there are, a lot of projects which sometimes, do the same thing, and at the same time there are gaps also that you're trying to fill. So if you can talk about, yes, there are, but this is what our focus is on.
Yeah, that's a really, really good question. I mean, there are many sort of, I would say, frameworks and platforms that people try and build and do build that kind of say that they build these distributed or these microservices architectures. Things that come to mind are things like Spring Boot, or there's one in the Go world called MicroGo that allows you to do that. But frequently what they require you to do is they require you to sort of throw away your existing code and sort of adopt this whole framework. And you've got to take on this sort of new paradigm of what these frameworks are trying to achieve. One of the advantages of Dapper is it meets developers where they are now. So you can incrementally just use one of these APIs. So if you're a Go developer and you have some existing code, or you're a Java developer and you have an existing application, and you've been told by your manager, take this application and scale it and run it in the cloud, you can just do a little piece of your application and take advantage of one of the Dapper APIs and help you take that in a step-by-step process. And this is the thing that's really attractive for developers. They're not asked to change how they work today. They can incrementally use Dapper, and the APIs enable them to build things like long-running stateful applications, publish and subscribe, secrets management, for example, and that's the benefit of it.
What kind of use cases are already there for Dapper?
One of the thrilling things about Dapper is that it got accepted as an incubation project, which means it is a mature project. So if you go and visit our website, which is at dapr.io, that's dapr.io, you'll find a number of case studies on there. But let me kind of talk about a couple of them. So, for example, one of them was Zeiss. Zeiss is a large lens manufacturer based inside Europe. They did worldwide manufacturing. They had to build a workflow application that allowed them to globally take lens manufacturing in a local company, in a local manufacturing store, and distribute it to their consumers and their actual providers around there. So they built an application that ran on top of Dapper, based on top of Kubernetes, using a set of other cloud services in order to integrate, with things like state stores and in order to do publish and subscribe events. So Zeiss was one good example. Another example I think is thrilling is that a financial company based in the UK called Man Group took a very ancient application. It was a trading application that they had. It ran on premise inside their data center. It was written on Windows and used some technologies that were about a decade old, but they were able to modernize it just by making Dapper bring state management and service invocation and these other APIs into the actual application itself. And that way they're able to bring their application into a scalable distributed application that before was very constrained in terms of how they built it. So those are two very good case studies. So we're seeing lots of usage of Dapper in production.
Can you first of all talk about what does incubation mean for CNCF's point of view, and what does it mean for the projects also?
Yeah, incubation means that there are two really main factors. One is about how Dapper started and the project itself is being used in production scenarios and has maturity there. The other side of it indicates very well that the growth of the community. And the community has been vital to Dapper. It's been pretty amazing. Dapper as a project was first released in October 2019. And since then, the community has grown rapidly. So for example, there are over 1,300 different contributors to the project. There are 3,000 members inside the Discord channel. The community builds many contributions into the project itself. And so its rapid growth to a very popular project on side GitHub has been driven by this. So CNCF, particularly for incubations projects, wants to see that the project is very stable and used in production, that there's a great healthy community that's growing around it all, and that it has a vibrant ecosystem. And that's vital for all of these open source projects. And in a particular case of Dapper, it's very developer centric, which was a great novelty to CNCF, where many of the projects are sort of infrastructure centric and allows them to break more into the sort of developer ecosystem.
Since we're talking about community, can you talk a bit about what kind of community is there around the project?
Yes, the community is very diverse. We have members from all sorts of different areas, from different companies, from different sort of backgrounds in terms of the developer tools that they're using. The good thing about Dapper is because, as I mentioned, you can use it for multiple different languages. We have Java developers, Go developers, C# developers, Node developers, all contributing to all of this. But we actually see developers, they're able to contribute a lot to Dapper in terms of one of the benefits that it has in these APIs is that you can plug in extra components to enable you to communicate to different systems. So this sort of component architecture. So for example, Dapper has a state store component that allows you to plug in AWS state store like DynamoDB or Google Firestore. And so the community has been plugging in various different components to talk to different cloud providers to create these long-running stateful applications, and have been very active in making Dapper grow so that it can be run on multiple different clouds and also on hosted on different environments. And also adding new APIs. In fact, just this release that comes out tomorrow, the community's added a configuration API that allows you to, in a consistent way, retrieve configuration data from your different backend stores that you have.
Can you talk about what kind of roadmap do you have for the project? And also, what is your kind of vision? When do you think it will graduate?
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a great question. When do you think it will graduate? I actually think that there's a vibrant life for Dapper ahead. And here's what we've been asking by the community quite a lot. I think, so let me kind of draw an analogy. Kubernetes became very popular because finally there was this sort of standardization that cloud providers could agree on as a consistent hosting platform. And everyone could agree that Kubernetes API of how you sort of had a hosting platform that allowed you to scale up the underlying infrastructure was something we can agree on. We're seeing this sort of same question being asked inside the developer community. They're saying, in the same way Kubernetes provides an API for hosting, can Dapper provide this consistent API for how an application can be made portable across different hosting environments or different clouds? And so what we'd like to see, and what we're actually seeing, is that this API will be a portable mechanism. So if I want to take an application and move it from cloud provider A to cloud provider B, I'll be able to do that very easily, because one of the great benefits of that is that you don't have to change your code. So I think we're seeing that happen a lot. We're seeing huge take up with developers who run on platforms like Kubernetes, although just to be clear, Dapper will run on any hosting platform. And And also in the growth in the serverless world, we still see there's a trend that slowly people are moving to serverless hosting platforms, things like functions, and containerization of these services. And we think that Dapper will play well inside that space. So I think there's a bright future where Dapper APIs become this consistent portable focus that developers can have that allows them this portability across different cloud platforms. And that's very exciting for developers. For me, I think it's very exciting that Dapper's got accepted into CNCF. We're absolutely thrilled by that. I think that was the right place for Dapper to grow. I think the whole goal is that Dapper remains a vendor neutral open source project that has a diverse set of community, has a diverse set of developers contributing to it all, and we're thrilled that CNCF accepted it as an incubation project.
Mark, thank you so much for taking time out today and not only talk about this project, also share the kind of roadmap that you have for this project. And let's hope it will get graduated soon. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Thank you for having me today.